Okay, good morning. How are things? Hmm. I was so just before I got the stream set up, uh um my wife said, Did you leave the back door open? Because Taylor's stealing things, so I had to go and run outside and go and try and get her to let go of things because she likes taking shoes and things as well. So and then I was seeing if I could get coffee before stream, but oh she's just having fun. She's just a dog. But yeah. I gave her treats in reward for taking away my daughter's shoe. Like you can't have the shoe, have a treat. So yeah. So yeah, that's how that went. um Dota. Uh, is the AI stream happening or have you abandoned it? No, it is still gonna happen. I'm trying to put together some uh uh ideas as far as my actual thoughts and opinions on this stuff. I've had a few conversations around it. So what I wanna do is I want to present what I've done and also highlight where I feel it went well, where I feel it went badly. No, my motivation. Well, no, my motivation has not waned, and if anything, my acceptance of using the tools has uh, um, my willingness to accept the tools has increased a little bit. Again, I don't see the threat from it at this point. I only see opportunity, and I think us understanding how to use the tools effectively is going to uh, uh, help us become better, and we can still be developers. So what I'll probably do is plan to do it on Friday. I don't think anything's stopping me from doing a Friday stream. And that way, if One Lion finds anything good from the conversation, he can raise that on Community Day as well. In the early AI days, a lot of people were saying stuff that made no sense, which is very off-putting. I think so. We'll go into it more on Friday, but I think we've got to be mindful of not being the um, like we've got to be mindful of not overreacting to how these tools actually work and how they really help. And I think all we can do is become better at using them so that when the business does ask us to use them, we can explain them better and we can adapt. But after doing it, all the scenarios where people are just letting it go for things, I see that, but I also think that it's not just that. I think there's a lot of benefits, and I actually have used it already, right? So, for reference, there is already a Copilot instructions in Liquid Sky. I haven't used it a lot yet, but I intend to use it a little bit more. I do not want to use it to code for me though. I don't think using it in an agentic or non-human in the loop patterns are not really there. Uh, I think until I think there's a lot of evolution necessary, Apex to get to that part, just from what I've seen. So yeah, but anyway, I'm not going to make this about the AI stream. I don't want to do that. I want to get on with this because I have limited time this week. Um, um, so if you guys want to continue our conversation about it, absolutely perfectly fine. But I'm going to focus on Liquid Sky Dev. So again, no Tuesday, Thursday stream. Next week, no Tuesday, Thursday stream. I think the week after I go back to a normal schedule, so I might actually be back to full 5 days. Next week I'm actually in Texas on Tuesday, so yeah. And then we've got another period in August that I'm out for a week, so that's a blown week. But yeah, so I want to get on with Liquid Sky. You know, this will. I've done a little bit over the weekend, but I need to make progress in this. So we'll make Friday's stream the AI stream. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, if you guys want to continue in a conversation, you know, open debate and discussion is always encouraged. Just realize that people have different experiences, and yeah. So let's go with it. So what I've done over the last couple of days is I've been getting the communications piece to receive this change event. So actually, this is that's a no AI, and I'm going right back to the AI. So last week we ended on a challenge. So I was in the domain object, and I hit this, and I was going to use Mongo, and I said, I need object ID in there, and that's a problem because that means pulling in a Mongo dependency, and I've done it in changes, right? Yeah, document has object ID, and I'm thinking, well, I don't want to. I want to try and avoid that this time. So I was a little stuck, and I said I decided to ask Copilot about the ID, and it's like, well, no, you should put your entities, your domain entities, and your models are not the same thing. What you want to do is you want to map your domain entities in your domain, and then you want to use your infrastructure layer to persist them. So right now in Liquid Sky, all the I bet the coffee's here. I use the entity in the domain as both the storage model and the behavioral wrapper around that. It doesn't have domain rules in it, but it has you know, associated objects and the behaviors mapped, etc. So I'm like, well, hold on, I can't have that work because I'm using AdDallas's specifications library. So I was having this conversation as such with Copilot, and it said, well, you need to separate them, and I'm like, well, I can't because I use AdDallas specifications. And after pushing a little bit, it really took a while to get the point in there, but after a while it's like, oh yeah, that uses a different pattern. It's quite common when using specifications to use the domain model to be the storage model as well. I'm like, well, so that puts me right back to my beginning. I don't want to introduce, is there a way of avoiding having a hard dependency on Mongo BSON library for my ID? Because I mean it's pulling in a BSON library. It's not like it's pulling in Mongo itself. It's provided by Mongo. So it's just another identifier. So it's not the end of the world if it happens. But what I don't like to do is have the storage technology be referenced in the domain. I'd like to have the storage technology out of there because, again, it sets that. I always think of the code as telling the story, right? So I always think of another developer coming across this and thinking, well, hold on, we've got Mongo in there anyway, so why not just include Mongo and do this, right? Underneath, no, I don't think it is. Let's have a look. I forget we can decompile. Yeah, it's a whole lot of behavior. So yeah, it looks like it probably is some sort of GUID, but it's not GUID based. So it's a Mongo specific serialization ID. So, and I tried last time to use a GUID as the ID and it did not work very well. So it was a challenge. So basically what I ended up with is in here, I say register the map and then basically tell it that that member is the ID. So now I can use the GUID. So I learned this way. But it took me a long time. And had I followed, if I hadn't known what Copilot was trying to ask me to do and the risk of doing what it was trying to ask me to do, it could have got very messy very quick. Because the libraries I'm using don't really fit this pattern of, oh, let's update a domain model and then let's go and map all the domain model to SQL Server or to the database, the storage technology in the infrastructure layer. It just doesn't work that way for my stuff. So, yeah, so it took quite a while, but we got there. So I'm hoping this will work fine. I haven't managed to run it yet, so this might be the first run. What I was doing yesterday was writing some tests. So we have some unit tests around actually recording those things, which should now pass. Yeah. Entity identifier. Identifiers, entity identifier, source event ID, user identifier, user email, user name, occurred on details. So we've got all those things there. Yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, we sorry, just reviewing anything that was worth me jumping in there. So now I get to the point of this is pipeline producing these changes. So communications should now store this information. But then I had a bit of a thought last night on this. I'm going to record this change event. Basically, every change, I don't have the luxury of knowing whether I should record a change event or not, because there's nothing telling me whether this event is actually useful or whether it's just superfluous, right? So the communications ends up logging every single change. I feel that that's actually a wasted opportunity. I think that the likelihood is what might be more useful is having a kind of an in the changes world, an API that can be queried, right? So the front end uses the same thing. So I don't duplicate this data yet again. And it's okay to have an API, you know, for read as well. I don't have to have everything in GraphQL. I don't have to stuff everything in GraphQL. I feel like it's probably worthwhile saying, oh, for this entity, what are the changes that have happened? I think that's a useful thing. But for right now, we're going to put in communications. The reason I'm questioning it is because it seems to be it seems quite heavy now, to the point where I'm going to record a load of data where I might not actually need 95% of it for a long while. So 1 second, I'll be right back. Um, all the services are kind of built the same way for better or worse, I guess. Not sure I follow. What do you mean? Coffee achieved. Um, yes. What? Why are you thinking of a different technology? Renner's going to put my brand on his livery of advertisement. Nice. Which might not always be the best setup for it. No Mercy, his media server. So if you don't know about Stony, Stony is building a media server that allows you to it's basically building your own Netflix, so you can store all your content like your PDVs and whatnot to a media server and then just create a feed. He streams that several times a week. He's been streaming it recently, and it's fascinating to sit and watch. I've seen services have different setup, like an API with SDK client, etc. I'm not sure how these decisions were made. Anyone wants to pick up that, they can do if they want to see it across the finish line. I will do it as soon as I can. I've set out to stream Tuesdays and Thursdays with occasional weekend stream. Nice. Dear. Yeah. If only I could handle the so anyway, I'm not quite sure I followed all. Are you kind of suggesting I use a different technology to do it? The code's there, Doctor, if you want to go and tinker with it. Yeah, I know what you mean, developers will stream, but I'm talking about. So you mentioned technologies. Did you have an idea in mind when you were talking about this? About the decisions. So, no specific idea. Okay, yeah. So the beauty of this design is that they don't have to be the same. More of these things are all the same. I wonder if they should be. They don't have to be the same. Like this uses Mongo, this uses SQL Server, right? This uses GraphQL. I don't have to use all the same technologies. I could use a completely different language if I felt it was the right thing to do. As long as it can hook into Kafka and Service Bus, RabbitMQ, then I could use it. Should everything be communicating via message bus? No. So the distribution of data happens through Kafka. I'm using message bus to send commands right this second, but my intent is when there are actual events that occur in the system, like something happened that needs to be told, then other systems can be notified of that thing. That's the design. So I'm not using Kafka as my message bus, added planning item. I could use my message bus for added planning item, right? But then I've got to carry with that all the data necessary, updated planning item, the same thing. So I'd rather stream out planning item as an object, as an entity onto Kafka and have that picked up by whoever needs it, and then be more deliberate with message bus. because otherwise I have to basically turn Kafka into a message bus, or just switch out and use message bus for everything. Yeah. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm consuming a change detail event into my communications layer, which again I actually think is probably better to have the change stream kind of might actually be we don't need to do the change stream at all. We just need to produce data here and provide an API here, and then have that available to query. So we don't have that extra need. Yeah, that can come later. What I need to do right now is figure out how to line these two things up. It's event ID that triggers it. Yeah, it's event ID that's a coordinating ID. Doesn't matter what object it's for. But I'm definitely down to explore new ideas and new designs. And again, as always, if you want to explore your understanding of some of this stuff and you want to talk about it, just ask the questions you find. Yeah. Everything scales. Well, so yeah, right now I'm producing all data that can be shared publicly. I'm producing via Kafka, right? Because I don't need the events that triggered it. I don't need anything special about it. I can just say, here's the data. Anyone who needs this data can go and consume this data, right? So if I build a search system, if I build something else, I don't have to go and subscribe to anything. I don't have, well, I do the Kafka topic, but I don't have to go and subscribe to a specific set of events. I don't have to do that. I don't have to understand those events. I can just know this data is available in Kafka. We can build a new service based around any of this data, or any of this data changing. Yes, we can imply behavior, but we don't need to worry about that. When I have specific things that need to happen in the larger domain, I can publish events using Service Bus. That's always been the plan. I can send commands via Service Bus. Like in here, this notification, it's a very deliberate act now. It's not a let's just kind of post something out there and if someone picks it up. I know a communication system exists. All I'm saying in here is send them the notification they need. And then this is going to control how they want to be notified. So if they don't want to be notified until the end of the week, then this has done its job and this system picks it up. But from API to Kafka will probably be quite painful also. Well, it flips. It flips things a little bit. If you're using Kafka to consume data, or using an API to pull data, you kind of switch a little bit to Kafka being the one to tell you that the data is there, so you don't have to constantly ask an API for something. So anyway, so the dilemma I hit yesterday as I'm doing this, right? So I have the receiver, the detailed change receiver. Actually, let's start up this component. I need to edit configurations. Whoa. Let's not get carried away there. Unit tests. PowerShell multi-launch. We technically don't need multi-launch anymore. Receivers. Communications. Consumers. App host. So Actually, let's do this. Just in case multi-launch is still a thing, add configuration. And then let's go to Aspire, app host. Bar. Communications receivers. Notifications. Changes. Mojo, good morning. Build an ad project. We need a reference. So the reason I chose storage here, by the way, is because I already have an infrastructure for email, and I didn't want to blur the lines, but we'll change that out again later. Wait for... That doesn't need to wait for anything. Why do I need to... I don't need to wait on gateway or identity for receivers. Oh, there it is. I put it on notifications, that's why. Notifications, notification infrastructure, receivers, consumers, receivers. Again, I don't technically need to wait for any of that. That's just to make sure that the APIs are up and running, and there will shortly be a communications API. Let's run it, see what happens. It should crash. So thank you once again, Stony, by the way, for the 2 subs. It doesn't actually tell me who got the subs post stream. That's interesting. So Stony challenged me to complete a lap of the Nurburgring without crashing, and offered 5 subs if I could get around without crashing, and subtracted 1 for every crash. And I made it with 3 crashes. What are you? Are you? Communications receivers, value cannot be null. It was so that I should have done that. Yeah. The challenge was actually I couldn't do Nurburgring in a fast car, so we went with the GT3 Lambo. Right? Yeah, we went with the GT3 Lambo. Yeah. But Stony, so that gave me a lot of confidence doing that race last night. Time trial last night. I went back to the daily races again, and I when I finished my dinner, I went back to the daily races, and I got a 6th position from the back. I was like at 12 or 13, and I got a 6. And it was on a, so I was feeling much more comfortable with the braking and stuff. So that was fun. No. It was Stony. Stony was watching me the other week, and I was in a Porsche GT3 RS, and I kept crashing on Nürburgring, and so the challenge was, he bet I couldn't do it in a fast car, so I accepted the challenge. I should upload some of the videos from it because there was one where I drove right into the back of another car. I tried turning a bit too late, and there was an Aston Martin in front of me, and I clipped it, spun around through the air, landed it, and almost stayed on track. The Volvo, if you want it. Oh, gee. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. So yeah, that was that was the challenge. What URI is this talking about? Communications. Yeah, you should drop it in Discord. What is this breaking? I think it's time to just start communications receivers up, if we're honest. So again, the benefit of this is that I can start these services independently. They don't have a heavy reliance upon the data. You know, eventually maybe I will have. Oh, it's Kafka configuration. That's the problem, because I didn't put Kafka configuration in there. That does kind of make sense, doesn't it? No, I did have Kafka configuration, didn't I? Kafka consumer. Uh, localhost 1992. Oh, hold on. Let's try that again. Why cannot be null? Console infrastructure. You know, if only I remembered how to use my own code. See this here? What's missing? There we go. There we go. I should have. So we should get a breakpoint. Oh, come on. Console infrastructure. Right. Ta-da. There we go. If you are new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, if you want to know a little bit more, you're more than welcome to ask. If you're just hanging out and watching a dev streamer, then that is perfectly fine. AI trying to gaslight you. Oh no. So again, we have this change detail. Let's just run and see what happens. So we didn't record anything. Right? Planning items. Outbox. Did we do anything in here? Yeah, add async. In theory, that's added. That didn't break. That didn't fail here. We recorded the change event. And our database configuration. Connection string here. Database name communications. But I don't see no communications there. So Mongo, you don't have to predefine things necessarily. So it will create them for me. New. Yeah. There's nothing missing here because it will add it there automatically. Yeah, it's 100% not there. Let's give that another try and see what happens. Let's actually go in here. It could have errored. Add async is part of the repository, the add-as repository. It will implicitly call save changes. Actually, it was still running, so yeah, we need to make another change. So let's stop that. Now we know it runs. Let's get the app host up and running and start everything. And that way we can make a change. So we are working on... So we are working on subscribe to status, right? So we're on this work here. Tasks. Changes pending. Record change details. So we're going to create the receiver's library, create the receiver for change details, record change details, including the event identifier of the change. So the event identifier is what we're going to correlate our changes on. Now, I had a moment last night where I'm like, well, hold on. If the data doesn't exist, so part of the benefit of using the eventing system, or rather using Kafka plus Service Bus, etc., is that I can react to things changing as they change, right? So if I don't have this notification, if I don't have this change detail before the notification fires, when that change detail comes in, it can say, oh, is there anything for this event? Yeah, no. Create the saga and sit and wait. But the problem is, and I was thinking about this yesterday, if I just create the saga when I receive an event, every single change that goes through the system will create a saga. That's not ideal, because I don't want to track every single change, right? So yeah, that's going to give me a bit of a design challenge. I'm trying to figure out how to diagram that essentially. Actually, it's probably better to actually go through this. So if I go, is that up and running? Yes, everything's running. Okay, let's go and check. Yeah, okay, everything's running. Chrome. Oh, helps if you actually start the client, right? Looking at my shirt says cleverly disguised as a responsible adult, by the way. W. Okay. So if I go in and I'm subscribed to changes on this object, I might be subscribed to the status change, like we've shown, right? So I might say, okay, I only care about the status. When I do this, the second part of this will be to select how you want to be told about this change specifically, or any of these things changing. If I subscribe to those changes in the notifications area so that those parameters are saved, when I publish an event to say something changed, I don't know whether a notification has triggered. I just know that I'm producing the change detail. And when I consume the change detail, again, I don't know whether this particular object has any relevance to the user, right? I just know it's a change. So if I let's say I pivot a little bit here and I change the design, so instead of having this is going to be a little weird, but I don't want to break the diagram anymore. So right now what I'm working on is basically for this, he says, with the tiniest possible line width. Why is my brain not working? Is that? Yeah, okay. Let's be a little bit more reasonable. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm basically taking the contents of this and pushing it into this system, right? So now I might have a change. This might land before this notification triggers. It might land after the notification triggers. So the concept was to update a saga that will then say, yeah, okay, we've got a change. The problem with doing that is that I will create a saga for every single change that comes through, even if only 10% of them actually have notifications attached, which is wasteful and unnecessary. But if I don't do that, when I receive a notification, because I'm going to say, hey, send them the communication, right? How they configure the communication is irrelevant. It's basically send them the communication. Oh, you need to wait for this information to be available. So even if I make this an API, right? Basically, if I make, instead of doing it this way, I basically feed this out into another store with another API around it, right? So that anyone can query for entity, any given any given entity ID, you can ask, what are the changes for it, right? And just provide an API that way. Even if I do that, this still has to know, what happens if this information is not there yet, because this would have an event ID on it as well. Like, this is the event that triggered it, the change event that triggered the detail. It would still have, you'd say, you'd be able to query by event ID or entity ID or both. Yeah. So I'd still have a timing problem in that I wouldn't know that this was there. So regardless of how I do it, right, even if I was, so right this second, I can move this component out into changes as a receiver, right? So I can just make this a changes details receiver or whatever. I can put it back into changes infrastructure potentially, and then store that as its own thing. Morning, Mr. Anhorn. The reason I'm not doing that right this second is because I don't think there's much value in, I haven't really thought through the API approach, and I don't want to do a knee-jerk reaction. It doesn't solve my problem right now. My problem is one of timing. So what happens if I proceed and create the Saga, right? So if I make the event ID the correlating ID, if this message is, if this message is the first one seen and creates a Saga, if I put expiration on my Sagas, say it expires within a day, yes, it will create a lot of Sagas, but they'll expire and delete. That's an option. And then if this starts the Saga and this finishes and this updates the Saga, it says, yep, here's an event for that event ID. Okay, we're good. That's the correlation. Then it completes itself by publishing the extra data. Is there a pattern or a design I'm missing? That's the question. And I'm trying not to think too far ahead, but I'm trying to think about effective time management in terms of, I know what's coming very quickly. So the ability to say I need an email at the end of the week, right? As I get a notification now has no direct relevance. It just kind of goes in a grouping of because that's just a long running saga, right? It basically it's a, hey, I subscribe to this thing. This notification is a subscription. Receive everything for it. This might be the most complicated piece I've got so far. I don't even know how to draw it. So essentially, let's go with, and whether anybody's listening or paying attention, this is more for me anyway. So let's do real time notification, right? So change occurs, right? It goes to it goes to build diff, basically. Right? It builds a diff. At the same point, once this publishes, right? This publishes a change. We end up with that is totally not aligned. Can't align. Ugh. Hey Kenny, how you doing? So we now have this other box. Let's be consistent in size at least. For notifications. And this one is figure out whether we should notify this person. Right? Autism. Hi, could you explain what you're doing? I'm very new to software development. Yeah. I am building an application. So I am not I am not very new. Only lurk need to work. No worries, Kenny. Thank you very much for the lurk. So for the past year, I've been building this application for project management and planning. So I've been building this to track work that needs to be done and allow developers to work on that piece. So that's the software that I'm building. This is the overall system. There's a lot of it. And what I'm working on right this second is being able to tell a person what changed. So what I'm trying to go through is the trying to figure out the thought process to see what I need to build in terms of this. Not that I know of. I don't often do charting or drawing. It's kind of more random scribbles. I mean, this is an architecture diagram of some form, but you know, certain symbols like databases and stuff are common. But realistically, I just use this to be able to represent this to other people. I didn't go to school for software development. I didn't learn anything like these tools for designing, and even if I did, they'd be well out of date at this point. You know, it's been almost 30 years since I was in school for anything. Yeah, C4 diagram, maybe. I do want to build some actual diagrams. But yeah. Yeah, C4 diagrams are worth, to Canny's point, C4 diagrams are worth looking up if you're looking for how to draw this stuff. But right now, all I really focus on is trying to get my it helps during dev too, especially if you're doing something a little bit more complicated. Sometimes, I mean, for me specifically, so this system is a large system, right? There's a lot of moving parts. Showing you the code, right? It's going to be overwhelming, even for more experienced developers, to go and look at a system without any context of what it's doing, right? So the diagrams help point to areas of the system and align. No worries, kind of enjoy. the diagram helps to align and point to the right things. So if I say, oh, the planning piece, right? The planning piece actually involves, right, these pieces here. So, you know, when you're looking at a system that's, you know, a little larger, and this isn't massive by any stretch of the imagination, and it is large and ever more complicated. But are you in school? Autism? Are you learning on your own? Have you begun work or yeah, school? Um, Building data structures. DSA. So I became a developer in the late 90s. I am not well studied in terms of, well, I'm not well, I didn't go to school for software development. Programming was a little bit of what I did. But it wasn't for me. So a lot of what I've done is self-taught. It means that when it comes to algorithms and data structures and stuff, I'm not always the quickest to label something, but oftentimes I actually can do a lot of what I need. In real world development, I build applications, websites and whatnot. In real world development, in the industries I've been in, I've not needed very complicated anything, so I've been able to get through. But the fundamentals and the foundations of how we do things can only help, right? So queues. Yeah, I'm familiar with queues and yeah. So for reference, that this technology here, Kafka, is a distributed messaging system. It uses topics. Topics are split into partitions, and partitions are essentially queues underneath. They are FIFO, and yeah, so you have guaranteed ordering within a partition of a topic with Kafka, which is one of its benefits because it partitions based upon identifiers, and if you use the similar key, you can guarantee ordering. So if you're publishing a bunch of data for the same object, you are guaranteed order, which is not necessarily true of something like Service Bus, which is more, yeah, here's some information. Like you in Star Trek. Kafka is a um, um, well, it can be used as a streaming database, but basically Kafka is used for distributing data across many things, right? So in this instance, what I do is when I save something to my database here, I publish an event, which is essentially, by the way, this data occurred. This data is now looks like this, and I push that to Kafka. Kafka is divided into topics, so I can subscribe to information from a single topic from any other thing. So what I'm using for Kafka for is wide distribution of all the data in my system. Thank you for the follow. Meaning that if I want to get this planning item that I create in here, so when my Angular client saves the data, it goes in here, it gets written in here to this database, it then publishes information, right? Now, this application is not a this application is deliberately massive. A Kafka cluster can have several. Ow! Those headphones are too short. A Kafka cluster can have several topics. Each topic I see kind of like a file that you can append records to. Then readers can pop records from the topic. Yeah, that's not far off. I'm again thinking more about how I'm using Kafka. Kafka is like a big data repository. It will hold on to information for a set window. And anyone who wants to get the information from it and has permissions to, in this case, everything's free, can receive that. The benefit for me is that I can build new parts. Pardon me. I can build new parts of my application and consume data without any other part of the system knowing. So it gives me that separation. So if you have a single database holding everything, so in a traditional, so if I do this in a traditional style, oh my goodness, right? We do a new scratch. So if we create a monolith, right? My Angular client will go to my backend, so my API, and then my database, right? And yeah, I draw it every single time. It's a wonky database today. We might do a 3-tier, right? Right. Everything's just going to save right through. This is Excalibur, yeah. I know there's libraries. Look, see, I have them over here. I like drawing my database. I do it all the time. Oh, the light. Nobody's autism. So if you go with the traditional tiered architecture, right? So you have one database, it stores everything. You probably get to where you need to be a little faster. The problem is that you have all the concerns of all the things. Array of God, an array in your face. Yeah. Morning, Frank. You have all the concerns for all the things in one place, right? It can be beneficial, but it can also be detrimental as well, because you end up with all the so if you're doing reporting, if you're doing if you have a need to query the data in a different way, etc., you end up with trying to meet all the needs of all the data in one thing. So yeah, so a single database is beneficial if you and honestly, if I was building this as a solo developer, I would not recommend this. I am a solo developer, but this is my kind of, I suppose it's my magnum opus, but it is kind of here's what I want to build. This is the system I have wanted to build for years, and here's how I think it should work. And also, like this I'm going through right this second is helping me figure out some of these challenges, helping me understand more about these things, actually experiencing doing this. But yeah, a traditional tiered architecture, and that's kind of there and there, really, would be a little simpler. So Kafka has something called topics, and it helps handle, yeah. So let me show you a Kafka topic. So the way I'm using Kafka the way I feel comfortable. I'm using Kafka. So it might differ. So I have these are topics, right? So I have liquid sky dot changes. So changes carries with it a message, and that message looks like this. So my change comes out of my changes system and publishes this way. Now, any system that cares about changes can consume that data and say, oh, what do I need to do with this now, right? Again, you can see the ordering. These are sequential because I only have one partition for this topic. If I had multiple partitions, they might not be as sequential. So you can partition data to get higher throughput. So again, Kafka, what you can do with Kafka is you can scale it out. You can say, okay, add in some more clusters, add in some more things. I want to have redundancy. And again, it's redundancy that's the big win there for Kafka. Is a highly resilient system. LinkedIn runs off Kafka. Yeah, the FIFO order. Yeah, so this key here, I mean, it's serialized, but this key here, you see the same key there, the same key there. Those will be the same object, EDE, EDE, EDE. So it guarantees that even if I publish them, they'll all go sequentially, and I can read them out sequentially. Even if they were in multiple partitions, if there was multiple partitions in Kafka, they'd still end up in the same partition because of that key. So I can organize my data. I can scale out the system, and I can get higher throughput. Yeah. So right now that is used by. So when I make a change, so I go and say update the planning item. So if I go in here, is the system running? Yeah, it is. Okay. So if I go in here and I edit this and I say, let's move that to ready for planning, right? And I save that. That will produce an event, right? So that will change planning items, he says, eventually. There you go. Not everything's instant. So the benefit of what I'm doing is my system saves the information and then puts it to Kafka. So you see, this is the planning item that I just changed, right? So I changed the status to ready for planning, right? It comes with all the other data, but that's fine. My changes system here was listening for that topic. It was subscribed to that topic. It received that planning item and said, do I need to do anything with this? Yes, I do. Okay, let's go and record the changes. So now if we go to changes here, you see 41 seconds ago, that object changed, and yeah, there's EDE again. You see the key. I'm keying it on the entity ID. That's interesting. Anyway, so that changes service published that event now. So this comes out. Now I have another service, this one here, this transform, which goes and says, okay, well, what does that look like if I enrich it, right? So I add extra data. So I add the source user, I add any extra pieces in there. So I'm enriching the system bit by bit. So are these like access only or something, or can the service modify the message of the key? The message is not being modified at all. The message is the message. Each service is publishing extra data, or in this case, it's publishing extra data. So this system over here, planning, publishes, here's what the planning item looks like. And again, I'm using Kafka in a distributed data design. I'm not using it to tell, oh, this was added, this was updated. It's up to individual systems to know about those things. So that publishes the planning items. And now the changes system picks that up and says, oh, let me see if I need to do anything. The benefit of this is nothing's stopping the system from working, right? So the client says, save this. Once that saves, it goes back and says, yep, I did that. And now you can carry on doing this. All this can happen in the background, and it can it can be processing, it can take its time. We don't need to wait for this to happen. In a more traditional system, if you had to do complex processes based upon that data, you would have to wait. So your user would be blocked from doing anything else potentially. Or, you could offload it, and there are techniques, but it's still a little harder when you're working in one way. So having this split out, having one database still is possible, but I wouldn't do it. Having the separate databases means I can have data that's optimized for each case. So in this case, I actually use a completely different technology. I use a NoSQL DB here, and over here I'm using a SQL DB. The changes system says it reads a message, does something with it, and modifies it. Does it send it back to the queue? It sends it to its own. It publishes out its own data. So the changes, that's the changes. And then when the details system picks the change up, it then goes and says, oh, okay, here's the detail. And it enriches it and adds, like, again, here's source user identifier. In the one yesterday, there was an assigned user identifier, and it went and got the extra information. What this means is that any system can consume the change detail and doesn't need to have the entire system data. It can just use what it has in here, so we can actually produce. And what I'm working on now is being able to send you an email, say, by the way, you asked for this. So again, the intention is here. I want to be able to go into here, and in this case, I've got status, right? So I want to say, okay, if the status changes and it changes to ready for planning, send me an email, right? So you can subscribe to individual fields on individual objects and be told however you want to be told. So if you want an email at the end of the week of all the things that changed on these planning items, you would get an email that says, okay, well, this changed to status this changed to this changed to this, and however we want to present that. So yeah, that is what I'm building. Good or bad, right or wrong, a lot of people are going to think this is overly complicated, and for a solo developer, even an experienced solo developer, this is way more than you want to manage. But the system is complicated enough now that I can actually work with what are essentially real world style problems, and solve them. So I'm proud of what I've done. If you like .NET content, Apex is doing game development. He's building his own game, and he's been using a lot of cool techniques. He's using C# with Godot, and using AI. So if you're also interested in AI, I highly recommend checking out Apex's stream. He's using it very effectively for him. And Frank is another .NET developer, also streams on Fridays mainly, and has been building his 2D6 game and does other projects. He's a cloud expert, and is a fantastic developer. And both streams are just awesome to go into, and I highly recommend. So if you like this sort of content, there's more of it. Right now, I'm so confused on what I should choose to start dev. Also, like, confused on language, on what path you want to follow, whether you want to follow game dev, app dev, technologies. Yeah, I'll grow the stream. I mean, made it to 150 followers. Nice. Yeah, Apex is honestly is get your schedule set up, get your consistency in there, and keep on plugging away. And yeah, some say React Node, some say Java Spring, some say .NET. Yeah, some that will be the story of your career. Some will say this, some will say that. What works for me doesn't work for you. So I would say have a look at them, build something in them, see how you feel about it, see how it made sense, see how the documentation worked. Build a React app, build a Node app, build a Angular app, build a Vue app or whatever, build a thing in .NET, build a thing in Java. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, hold on. If you're going to link something, I need to give you a badge I should have given you a long time ago. There you go. You might need to refresh, but you should have it now. Yeah, if you want to link anything, Frank, yeah. Yeah, autism. Don't. A lot of people are going to tell you a lot of things, and they're going to continue to tell you a lot of things. There's a lot of opinions out there. There's this is right, this is wrong, this is whatever. Layla, who's also a C# streamer, will be on .NET Live today. Nice. I think I saw that in my. Do you have a link to it? Python is pretty popular too. True. Yes. So I don't know if anyone's aware. My wife has played a game called Puzzles and Dragons on Android for years, and she just hit 4,000 days consecutive of playing it. Yeah. So 4,000 days. That's insane. Still plays it every day. It's not as big as it once was. Yeah. But anyway. So yeah, autism. What I did so I used to so I started my career and I was working in basic and nice. Thank you, Frank. I highly recommend checking that out. Layla is an awesome developer. She's a very talented developer. She's done a lot of business software, but has transitioned to making her game. Does that with a partner, and yeah, streams that as well. A friend of mine was saying you need work experience for Java roles. Someone was saying no, React doesn't pay well because Java is used a lot in enterprise. Yes, Java's used a lot in enterprise. .NET's used a lot in enterprise as well. React is all over the place. I use TypeScript React. It pays very well. Yep. In my area, asterisk. Yeah. Disclaimer. Ads are going to start shortly. If you get stuck behind ads, I apologize. Just let me know. You need work experience for everything once you get work experience, but you shouldn't be being hired based upon I'd say that documentation wise, I wouldn't say documentation. Do something, build stuff, build things. Front end 100%. I would definitely look at React. I would definitely look at Vue. I'd look at Angular and compare them and see how you feel about them. Get the basics of building the apps up and running. So the client side, if you're going into this field as an application developer, yeah, yeah. So let's carry on this while wait, ads are going. So this comes out, and then this comes out. No worries. We'll wait for the ads to finish. just to make sure that it's cool. But I asked for Claude Gemini GPT for where should I start to learn how to code. I want to use Vanilla AI to program to learn the thing. That might give you a good start, don't you? Yeah. I think we all learn very differently, right? We all have our different ways of picking things up. But my disclaimer is always, as a new dev, to use minimal AI to do it for you, but use it to guide. Yes, 100%. Do not rely upon AI to do what you need to do. I definitely don't. You're at the beginning. What I was trying to say before is, I spent a long time trying to do many things. I think that was beneficial because I got to learn how certain tools worked. I got different perspectives from different languages. So I was, for the first 10 plus years of my career, I was using PHP and .NET. I was using more PHP on the personal side to build sites and stuff because .NET just wasn't there as well. So that was a benefit. But experiment, tinker with different technologies, play with. It's very easy to pick up a lot of stuff these days, and like Apex says, if you use ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, to say, hey, how do I set this up or how do I do this? I definitely recommend that for guiding. But yeah, no job, by the way. So coming back to what you were told about experience, no job is going to hire a junior developer and expect them to have, well, no reasonable job is going to hire a junior developer and expect them to have experience, right? No, we're not. Chances of me doing PHP on stream, 0. Yeah, no job, no reasonable job is going to expect experience from someone they're hiring as a junior developer. But what you can do is build some experience yourself, build some real things, solve problems. You know, if you like for me, I like games. Um, so I build a library tracking app to track games, and it's not because I necessarily need that. There's plenty of existing applications out there. It's because it's something that I understand. It's something that I don't have to get my head around. I can build something realistic. This is something, if I'm being honest, this is something I felt I understood. And building this has allowed me to learn more about the thing itself. As I do it. Sorry. So, build software, build something, pick a project like a simple tool to, you know, take a file and read it to a screen, right? Build that application in React, build that application in Vue, build the same application in Angular, or build the same application in the backend or whatever. However you do it, build the same thing, and you can compare the experience of building that thing and figure out what worked for you, and just keep building software that way. And eventually, what you'll do is you'll find something that you enjoy doing. Obviously, you also have to consider what the job market in your area looks like. I don't like suggesting to-do list, but essentially, yeah, a to-do list. A to-do list is useful because it can give you tracking lists. You can use a database. You can save to a database. You can bring that data back, etc. Yeah, I'd still do more file access and stuff because that's a pain in the backside. I rewrote from PHP to Node to C# and from PHP to React to Vue. Yeah. And become a competitor to it. I'd like to start a petition to do some PHP. You can petition. That is your right. I highly doubt you will find anything that I could use PHP for that would be in any way desirable for me. Put it this way, considering this, you're more likely to see Rust or Go first. No worries, Vortism. There is a Discord attached as well. If you ever want to ask further questions, you are more than welcome to jump into the Discord and ask. I don't mind this sort of conversation. I think it is very useful. Money talks, we have the power. Money doesn't talk that much. So yeah, it's you're more than welcome to ask questions all the time. I do not mind if the stream gets derailed because of questions like that. No issue. Just throw money at the problem kind of solution. If you have enough subs, we can get there. Yeah. Yeah, you figure out how to get me to like 200 subs without you spending any money. And we'll figure that out. We'll figure out PHP. A dev stream with 200 subs, by the way, no. So anyway, I was diagramming something before. I need to borrow your moderator for that then. I think I have to proceed with this as I intended, but I'm actually contemplating. So the challenge is, in real time, these two events aren't going to hit at the same time, right? There's no way they hit at the same time. There's no way I can guarantee the order in which they hit either. So once I do this build diff, both notifications and fetch details, actually, yeah, that diff comes from there. Then we go fetch details. Yeah, I'm dropping off. Thanks for the stream. Apex, thank you very much for coming and hanging out. Appreciate it as always. Have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you again soon. Are you streaming tonight? Was it tonight you're streaming? Stream for tomorrow. Cool. Okay. At the memory of a goldfish. Tuesday, Thursday, Thursday. Nice. Cool. I'm gonna just pin a message saying with 200 subs, we can force a streamer to do in PHP as well. I don't think you can corrupt one line that much. So anyway. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. What the hell happened? I think I'm safe on not doing PHP anytime soon, that's for certain. Shenanigans for free. let's tackle problem number one first. I actually don't have it saving, do I? Why are you not loaded? You should be loaded. So if I go and change this, let's change this to Fred. Let's change this to ready for planning. Save that. We should hit that breakpoint. We're not in that breakpoint, are we? That means that is erroring. So, not that one, communications. So, the problem with the way that this works is because these are running as tasks, if they error, you kind of just swallow the error. Communications receivers. Doesn't say it's erroring, but that doesn't mean it's not erroring, right? So we go to change detail. Yeah, 30 seconds ago. See, that was firing there. So what happens is if this receivers communications. See, that's this. I don't. Communications receivers. Let's stop that one running. Let's start it again. So this is the downside of using something like Kafka, right? You can end up with some challenges. So there's my event, right? So my event got sent. Now let's bring up. I think that errored. Unable to resolve type. There we go. Email provider will attempt to activate communicate. That's not deliberate, by the way. So .NET, the .NET ecosystem and C# language were created in the early 2000s in response to Java. So if you go way back, you look at Microsoft actually created J++, which was like kind of a version of Java from them, and I think that got shut down. I don't think that went too far pretty quickly, but Anders Heilsberg was building this new language, and it's C based, right? They're all C based, so they all look very, very similar. If you look at modern PHP as well, just coming back to that, it looks very, very familiar if you're used to seeing Java and C#, because PHP is kind of in the middle somewhere of those two languages in terms of its style and structure. But yeah, it is. So again, I don't do Java dev. Java dev actually, when we're talking about things that I would be willing to do on stream, building a Java client for one of these things would be something I would be willing to do to demonstrate that it is possible to mix and match the technology stacks. I'd probably feel more. The hardest thing about using Java would be my C# style would come through. I'd ended up writing C# Java. That would be the big risk. So the problem with this one is I haven't set up my email provider. So it's expecting it because this has a dependency on it. I don't know why that would be necessary to resolve first, but it seems it is. But yeah, it's not ooh. Oh, this is going to need email anyway. What am I doing? It's going to need email. I'm going to send an email from it. So it's okay for this service to know about it. But we do get into a world of configuration. That's interesting. So what we're going to do here, builder, add email provider. This T builder, where T builder, is there a reason why people use Rider or say IDEA for Java? Is it just personal preference? Yeah, yeah. I like using Rider. I used Visual Studio for many years. So I started in .NET in 2004, 2005 window. But yeah, it's preference. And I've used Rider for a few years now, and I just prefer the ID. Sorry. And hello on YouTube. I'm not sure how to say your name, but welcome in. iHost. Is it iHost Builder? iHost Application Builder, yeah. iHost Application Builder. Yeah, the thing you will definitely learn about software development in general is everyone has opinions. Oh, they're all mixed. That's not good. Communications receivers. I thought I'd updated them all. See 902, 904. Are they mixed? Yeah, because I've got mixed references. Okay. The implicit references are there. Implicit. Sure. Respect your opinion more than average, Jones. Yeah, but I mean, making your own mind up though is a very important thing. And again, I do say this a lot on stream. If you're writing software, write the software that you can maintain. Write the software that you're capable of writing today. Don't necessarily write the software that someone else wants you to write, right? So people will say, don't do this, don't do that. You should do this, you should do that. Oh, that's terrible, that's good. That's amazing, that's the worst thing you can do. While you're learning and you're growing, all that just you'll just hear conflicting advice, so you'll not understand how to implement what you're being told because you don't have that experience to do it. So things that you can follow, write cleaner code, write understandable code. Don't hack things in, don't copy and paste things in that you don't understand. Build on your knowledge, build that experience, and even when people are saying do this, take it as something to learn from rather than something to follow dogmatically, because it will trip you up. I was saying at the beginning of the stream, I was asking Copilot for some stuff the other day. I actually tried to add it to get files yesterday, and it did not go well. But I was asking it to do something for me, and the guidance it gave me conflicted with what I had. And when I look back at it, it's like, oh yeah, well, there's a different style. So, yeah. Wait, talking about AI. So we're going to paste that in there. We're going to do builder.services, builder.services. It can be added. Why can't you be added there? Can that be used? Email configuration. Oh. Doesn't matter what this is called. Because it's just in there. We need to do... Actually, why do I need that? It's using an older method I had. Microsoft extensions dot configuration dot binder. How should I use AI in development? I understand about it guiding you, but I've heard people saying that it's the future, blah, blah. I should learn about how to use it in the dev process. So, write code. Do not let AI write the code for you at this point. Use it as a reference, by all means, but you have to understand that it's going to give you things that are going to conflict. So you have to learn how to understand when it's giving you garbage and when it's giving you accurate information. It is not always up to date, so it's going to give you out of date information on libraries potentially. You know, until they figure out how to get things pushed quicker, it is going to be several months out of date depending on what model you're looking at, right? It's going to suggest APIs that don't exist. It's going to make things up because they make sense to it in terms of how it's gathered its information. So, is it the future? Yes, I think as a tool for us, it is in the future. But do not substitute writing code first. Treat it like a guided tutor. Don't copy and paste the code. Copy the code from the output. Yeah. Definitely learn from it. I will say I have learned things just the other day. I don't think I've got the actual conversation up. Yeah, I do actually. So I was asking it about the style difference between what I was doing and what it was suggesting, and it was like, oh yeah, you're right. But you have to go that path, right? So I was asking it, right, defining models and whatnot. So sometimes it's useful to just bounce questions off it and have it come back with responses. I'm trying to lean away from treating it like another programmer. I don't consider it as another programmer. I think that is a problem we keep making for ourselves by comparing it to developers. I've seen people say that you should get familiar with using AI in dev in terms of like error debugging, coding, and other processes of dev. I think you should become familiar with it. I think it would be, especially you're coming into this, you don't have a lot of experience. Therefore, I would say, yeah, absolutely learn how to use the tools, learn how they work in the process, learn what they can do for you and what they can't. It will help you when it comes to interview time for jobs to understand, oh yeah, I can use these models, I can do this, this is how we're using this is how it can help you, this is how it can hinder you. I think there's a definite benefit. I think that's true of all developers at this point, senior or junior. I think it would be naive not to. But don't let it take over. Don't be the whole, I don't like using the term, but the whole having the AI code for you, don't do it. You will quickly lose control of what it is doing, and you cannot guarantee the output. Ugh. It's a horrible phrase. I just don't like it. Um, so yeah. So that. Oh yeah. That's asking it to do that. I was experimenting, and it put it in there, and it should have put it in there. So the reason I put that configuration in here, that configure email in here, is because now I can go to my consumers that have that. Add, they call it configure. Add email provider, yeah, email provider. No. Oh. Dear. Okay. Let's do it. I needed to do this anyway. So I actually mimic this style off of a Microsoft library, and I thought there was like I was I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, and then I realized that they were up and down on all their styles of doing this as well. So I wasn't necessarily doing anything particularly bad. Add service bus. So that's going to go in there now as add service bus. Starts to make that a bit more readable. That's going to be a problem. No, it's not. You can just do var builder. You can go down here and say var app equals builder.build right the second, and then we can just do, yeah, we can do that, and then we can say builder.services.add console service discovery. Oh, hold on. Did I pass in configure? I did. Ugh. That's why you do it that way. Builder.add services.mediator. That should be fine. That way, I can use the exact same extension method on the receivers, and I don't have to worry about add email provider. I can do that. It says with confidence. I've broken something somewhere. Communications dot infrastructure. Okay, it did work. Okay. Yeah, so on Friday, I'm going to, my stream is not going to be about this particularly. It's going to be about an adventure in AI. So I would highly recommend if you're interested, coming back on Friday, seeing how I did that phrase that I do not like using. So what I've done is over the past week, I have spent some time in my downtime working through an example application, building an application that I consider to be a little bit more involved. I've gone through adding testing. I've gone through adding distributed messaging. I've gone through adding other things, and I've not written a line of code. It's helped me form a lot of opinions. It's helped me firm up a lot of things that I wanted to verify. And I will share that all on Friday. So the intention will be Friday's stream will be all about my adventures in AI. TLDR, I think we should be comfortable using these tools. I think there is room for them. Do I think they're going to solve everything the way that businesses are making out? No, I think there's going to be a marketplace for developers able to go in and fix code that was written that way. The people who just let it go and do what they want it to do at this point in time, it is nowhere near where it needs to be. Well, to be able to do that, to be able to do it without monitoring. That being said, I still don't feel that once you get beyond the basics, that you will end up with a solid application. The code it produces, the consistency or lack thereof, etc., need to be kept in check. And so I think solid prompt building and understanding how to do that is necessary. But we'll go into this more on Friday. I'll show you. I'll demonstrate what I've got. I'm trying to tweak some stuff to see that to make sure it's actually working. But I will demonstrate an application that is not a simple application. It is more than complicated enough. Hi Barry. And yeah, so we'll do it that way. So yeah, that'll be Friday's stream. Let's see if this starts up and does what we need to do right now. So what I've done there is I've created a shared configuration that both of these can use. So now I have consistency in how I configure email between the receivers. That means that's a bit cleaner, and I don't end up with that. And actually, that's a style that I need to consider moving to, is more kind of self-configuration in the areas that need it. Okay, did you run? Did you crash? Did you run? Did you do anything? Are you broken? We want communications to appear here. Or that to turn to 8, whichever one happens. So what I need to do here is I need to put some more monitoring and logging inside of the Kafka pieces so I can configure that they will tell me when problems are occurring. Because what happens is they run in a task, and when that task errors, it just fails silently. It doesn't actually log to your regular debug output. So you end up with, why isn't it working? And what it does is it just crashes that task, and that task now no longer consumes messages. So you end up with, why is why do I have a lag on my messaging? So that continued to fail, and it probably failed because I have configuration in there that requires external providers email. Try that again. If the message is failing, the lag might not actually catch up. So we should be good. Come on. Come on. We need to finish this. Okay, let's make a change and see if it happens. Okay, so we're going to go to in progress, and we'll assign it to Fred. We'll save that. And we want to see those changes go through. Realistically, all I'm looking for is a communications database to appear and contain that change. Yeah, see that 24 minutes ago, that message didn't get passed, didn't get consumed. So it is one of the downsides to using something like this, where you end up with, and this is what Fuel Schnabel kind of, imagine streaming when I'm streaming. Oh, should we align from now on, so that we don't conflict? You tell me when you're not. When you tell me when you're streaming, and I won't stream on those days. Well, don't worry. Unfortunately, fortunately, I like getting paid. I am back to work today, so I am about to finish this. I'm just looking for some success for the day. I keep hitting refresh like it's going to change anything. So apparently this isn't working. I don't know why. Probably because I'm an amateur. Who doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, see, lag. So there's 13 message lag on communications integration. So did that error? Let's have a look. Let's see. It could still be erroring. That's the case. Start that up once more. Let's put a breakpoint here. The fact that there's lag suggests that it will actually, yeah, it'll receive a message. We hit F10. Oh, we're hitting there. Did we hit an exception? There we go. The property change detail after could not be mapped because it is a type of object which is not supported primitive type or a valid entity type. Either explicitly map this property or ignore it using. There we go. So the problem there is that I have said, oh, it's an object, to try and get away with it being like whatever it needs to be. What the answer there will be is I'll need to serialize that value out and store it as a string. I've done that before. It just needs a bit more setup. So these are objects because I don't know why. They probably can be strings. I can probably just say them as strings because they're probably already serialized as they come through. So we'll see that. So I will try and do that later on. Unfortunately, you know, I like getting paid. Yeah. If you're not following maybe already, which I assume considering the numbers in the stream should be, go follow maybe. He does code and things, and his stream's all right. So there you go. Maybe he's building Barely Fit. It is an awesome little application. Not little application, an awesome application. That sounds wrong. He's putting a lot of hard work into that app, and it's coming along. He's released it on Android, and when Apple pull the finger out and help him get it across the iOS, it will all be good. So support maybe, let him take a break. 9 people. We got low numbers today, considering where we've been the last couple of weeks. So we'll go raid it. We'll follow you. We'll raid over to Anna. Anna is building her writers platform still, I believe. Yeah, we're on web writers platform, full Markdown editor and stuff, all hand coded. Complete overachiever when it comes to code, but she's trying to do what she can. So yeah, goes in waves. Yeah, it's summer. It'll be up and down. Yeah, so let's go right over there. I will be back tomorrow. Also, I need to do one more. Will it let me do this? Yeah, if you've not followed One Line already, I kind of liked it in the stream. One Line is doing all the shout outs for me. one-line streams Wednesdays through Fridays. If you like .NET content, if you like the opportunity to talk to people, who, you know, who do this professionally as well, one-line stream is an awesome place to go and hang out. And on Fridays, he does community day where we can go in there and have a chat about stuff. And I've got a feeling this Friday might be a bit more AI focused, if I get in there. So we'll see. But yes. So go follow online as well. Okay. However, that said, I do need to finish. I need to go get ready for work. We will raid Anna, and I will be back on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I have PT tomorrow. And yeah, we'll resume with this. So thank you all. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you soon. Bye all.